ኦኬ ዌልካም ዛሬ የምናየው ፋይናንሻል ማናጅመንት ቻፕተር 5 ዘ ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል እንደ ዘ ካፒታል ስትራክቸር። በዚህ ቻፕተር ዲስከስ የምናደርገው ስፔሲፊክ ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል የሚባሉ አሉ። ዊል ዲስከስ ዞስ ስፔሲፊክ ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል basically, and also the weighted average cost of capital, and also we'll discuss the capital structure. So to start with, basically, in this chapter we'll discuss those issues basically. The first issue is simply we'll define the meaning of cost of capital. The second one will define the capital structure. The third one, there are different components of cost of capital, which is specific cost of capital የምንላቸው cost of debt, preferred stock debt cost, the cost of common equity capital, the cost of retained earning, and the new common stock basically. And in addition to that, at the end of this chapter, we will discuss the meaning and the use of weighted average cost of capital. ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል ስንል ቤዚካሊ ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል ዲስከስ ከማድረጋችን በፊት ሌታስ ዲስከስ ካፒታል ቤዚካሊ። ከካፒታል ስንነሳ ዋት አር ዘ ሶርስ ኦፍ ሎንግ ተርም ካፒታል ቤዚካሊ። አንድ ካምፓኒ ሎንግ ተርም ካፒታል ከየት ያመጣል? ዛት ሲምፕሊ ዘ ፈርስት ኩዌሽን። ሎንግ ተርም ካፒታል ቤዚካሊ የተለያዩ ሶርስ ኦፍ ፋይናንስ አለ። ዘ ፈርስት ዋን ኢዝ ሎንግ ተርም ዴፕት። ያ ማለት ሎንግ ተርም ዴፕት የምንላቸው ከረጅም ጊዜ ከባንክ የተበደረ ገንዘብ ሊሆን ይችላል። ኦርስ ሜቢ ኢሹዊንግ ቦንድ ኢሹ በማድረግ የሚመጣ ገንዘብ ሊሆን ይችላል ማለት ነው። ዘ ሰከንድ ዋን ኢዝ ስቶክ። አጠቃላይ ኢኩዊቲ እና ዴፕት ብለን እናከፋፍላለን። ወደ ኢኩዊቲ ስንመጣ ቤዚካሊ ፕሪፈርድ ስቶክ አለ እና ኮመን ስቶክ አለ። እነዚህ ሁለቱ ዚአር ሲምፕሊ the main equity source of finances basically. ወደ ኮመን ስቶክ ስንመጣ most of the time ኮመን ስቶክ ውስጥ there is a retained earning and a new common stock. Retained earning የምንለው basically after the company pays for the preferred stock, ለፕሪፈርድ ስቶኮች ከከፈለ በኋላ ለኮመን ስቶክ የሚከፈለው ዲቪደንድ some may paid and some may retained. የተወሰነው ካምፓኒ ጋር ሊቀር ይችላል ማለት ነው። that simply retained earning እንላለን። the second one is new common stock የምንላቸው basically አዲስ common stock ለገበያው ኢሹ ከተደረገ that simply considered as a new common stock source of finances. The other is meaning of cost of capital. አሁን ዲስከስ ያደረግነው ካፒታል ነው ቤዚካሊ። ዋት አር ዘ ሶርስ ኦፍ ካፒታል? የተለያዩ ሶርስ ኦፍ ካፒታሎች አሉ። the next one is what is the meaning of cost of capital basically. When the firm invests money in project, it should earn at least as much as it costs the firm to acquire that funds basically. ያ ማለት most of the time there is a long term project in the company. እነዚህ ሎንግ ተርም ፕሮጀክቶች ፋይናንስ የሚደረጉት በምንድን ነው? ዳር ፍሮም ዲፍረንት ሶርስስ። አሁን ባልነው መሰረት ከኢኩዊቲ ሶርስ አለ፣ ዴፕት ሶርስ አለ። እነዚህ they have a costs basically. ካፒታል ኮስት አላቸው። ለምሳሌ ዴፕት ብንወስድ it have interests። ለምሳሌ በቦንድ መልክ ገንዘብ ከተሰበሰበ ኢንተረስት ይከፈላል። ያ ኢንተረስት ኮንሲደር የሚደረገው እንደ ኮስት ኦፍ ዴፕት ይሆናል። አጠቃላይ ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል የምንለው ካምፓኒ ያመጣው ኮስት ካፒታል ላይ የሚከፍለው ኮስት we call it cost of capital basically. Cost of capital may be defined as a minimum acceptable rate of returns basically. አንድ ኢንቨስተር ገንዘቡን ለእኛ ሲሰጥ ኦር ካፒታሉን ፕሮቫይድ ሲያደረግልን ሚኒመም የሚያስከፍለን ሬት ኦፍ ሪተርንስ። ለእነሱ ሬት ኦፍ ሪተርን ነው። for the company it's a cost. ለምሳሌ here there is a company, there is investor. this investor has a capital. So they provide capital for our companies or ለሌላ ካምፓኒ ፕሮቫይድ ሊያደርጉ ይችላሉ። there is a capital market basically. so ለእኛ ይሄንን ገንዘብ ለመስጠት we have to pay them. so in return ገንዘቡን ከተቀበልናቸው እነሱ መክፈል አለብን ነው። so ስለዚህ በዚህ ሳቤ simply we can say that is simply የኛ ካምፓኒ ይሄንን ካፒታል ሲወስድ የሚከፍለው በፐርሰንቴጅ ሬት ኦፍ ሪተርንስ ኦር ኮስት ኦፍ ካፒታል የምንለው ይሆናል ማለት ነው። so basically what the firm has to pay for the capital is that debt ለዴፕት ይከፈላል። preferred stock አለ፣ common stock and the last one is ለሪቴንድ ኢርኒንግ ይከፈላል ማለት ነው። so በአጠቃላይ this is the concept of cost of capital. so the next one is simply components of cost of capital. so የተለያዩ specific cost of capitalዎች አሉ። so ስለዚህ we consider as a components of cost of capital basically. so the cost of capital for any particular sources. so እያንዳንዱ source of finance it have different source of different costs የተለያዩ cost ነው cost ያደርጋሉ ካምፓኒ። so we call it simply specific cost of capital ብለን ኮንሲደር እናደርጋለን ማለት ነው። so specific cost of capital. so ለምሳሌ there are different specific source of finance basically debt source አለን preferred common stock and debt. so ስለዚህ እነዚህ they have different source cost of capital cost ለምሳሌ debt ብንወስድ we call it cost of debt. preferred stock ብንወስድ we call it preferred stock costs which is KP. ወደ common stock ብንመጣ which is KC cost of common stock capital. ወደ retained earnings ስንመጣ which is KR common cost of common retained earning ምንለው those are simply the specific cost of capital for different source of finances or source of capital. so the first one is simply cost of debt ነው and the cost of preferred stock. so አሁን ዲስከስ የምናደርገው እነዚህ ሶርስ ኦፍ ፋይናንሶች በተናጠል ሚኒንጋቸው ምንድነው and also how to calculate their costs እነዚህን ኮስት እንዴት ካልኩሌት እናደርጋለን ነው basically. so the first one is cost of debt ነው cost of debt basically cost of debt ጋር ስንመጣ it is the return that the firm creditors demand on new borrowing on minimum rate of return required by the supplier of debts. so basically there is a supplier of debt ያ ማለት በዴብት መልክ ካፒታል ፕሮቫይድ የሚያደርጉ አሉ። so እነዛ they need a rate of returns. so that rate of return is simply considered as a cost of debts or the rate that's demanded by the creditors. so bank ሊሆን ይችላል or it's general public ለምሳሌ in the form of bond that's simply cost of debt ብለን ኮንሲደር እናደርጋለን ማለት ነው። so relating to this debt source of finance is simply the cheapest source of finance. so ይሄ ኮንሲደር የሚደረገው it is cheapest source of finance. that means ብዙ ካምፓኒዎች debt source ቢጠቀሙ it is preferable most of the time because this source of finance has a tax advantage. ለምሳሌ it has tax advantage basically so basically there are two reasons why the debt is simply cheapest ተደርጎ የሚታሰብበት. the first one is simply debt supplier in general assume that lowest risk among all supplier of the capital. so this source of finance assume a lowest risks. so ስለዚህ if the risk is lower they expect relatively low rate of return is basically. the second one is raising capital through debt source entails interest expenses. so የካምፓኒ ኢንተረስት ኤክስፔንስ ከፍ ያደርጋል። so ይሄ ኢንተረስት ኤክስፔንስ በጨመረ ቁጥር it reduces the tax base. so የካምፓኒን ታክስ ቤዝ ይቀንሳል። ታክስ ቤዝ ቀነሰ ማለት simply in other it reduces the tax payments. so ስለዚህ this source of capital is cheapest source of capital or have a tax advantage. So ስለዚህ debt source of finance የምንለው mostly in the form of sales of bonds. So bond በመሸጥ የሚመጣ ካፒታል it is simply considered as cost of debt ተብሎ ኮስቱ የሚሰራ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ in relating to this as I have said, there is issuance of issue of bonds, bond issue ይደረጋል። So when we say issuing bonds, so አንድ bond authorized ተደርጎ issue ተደርጎ ወደ ገበያ እስከሚሸጥ ድረስ there is different related costs. So ተያያዥ ኮስቶች አሉ። So this cost is simply called flotation cost. So flotation cost እንላለን. Bear in mind. So this is very important. So flotation cost የምንለው the total cost of issuing and selling securities, basically any form of securities, maybe equity security or debt securities. So this reduce the net proceed. So from the sales ያ ማለት ለምሳሌ ካምፓኒው ቦንዱን የሚሸጠው 1000 ብር ከሆነ ሶ ይሄንን ቦንድ ለመሸጥ እያንዳንዱን ቦንድ ለመሸጥ ለምሳሌ 100 ብር ወጪ ካለበት ኔት ፕሮሲድ የምንለው ፕሮሲድ የሚባለው ምንድነው? ቦንዱ ከተሸጠ በኋላ የሚሰበሰበው ገንዘብ ነው። So that's simply considered as a net proceed. So ስለዚህ this net proceed is equal to sales minus flotation cost ይሆናል ማለት ነው። So sales minus flotation costs ለምሳሌ 1000 ብር ከሸጥ ነው ሶ ያንን 1000 ብር ለመሰብሰብ 100 ብር ወጪ ካለ እጃችን ላይ የሚደርሰው 900 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። So that's simply considered as a net proceed. So based on this, how to calculate the net proceed basically. So net proceed is equal to price of debt minus flotation costs. Net proceed from the sales, then price of the bond አለ flotation costs. So ስለዚህ net proceed is equal to price of debt minus flotation costs. So ስለዚህ we can get the net proceeds. So after we get the net proceed, the next one is simply computing the cost of debt. So cost of debt compute ማድረግ ነው። So we use these formulas to compute the net debts. So here እዚህ ጋር cost of debt is equal to interest plus PN ማለት እዚች ጋር par values. So par value ምን ማለት ነው? ቤዚካሊ ቦንዱ ላይ የሚጻፈው ለምሳሌ ቦንዱ it is a piece of paper ሰነድ ነው። So ሰነዱ ላይ የሚጻፈው የገንዘብ መጠን that is considered as a par value minus net proceed. As I have said, net proceed የምንለው ቦንዱ ተሽጦ የሚገኘው ገንዘብ ነው። ቤዚካሊ divide for n simply the number of life year of that debt is basically, then divide for pn plus npd. pn ናችን par value ነው plus net proceed. As I have said, it is net proceed divide for 2. So በዚህ መልኩ we can get the cost of debts. So basically this cost of debt is simply it is before taxes. So before tax ነው። ስለዚህ we have to adjust this for the after taxes. So after tax cost of debt መስራት አለብን. That means we have to adjust before tax to the for after tax adjustment መስራት አለብን ነው። So to calculate that, KDT, which is after tax cost of debt, is equal to before tax cost of debt minus into 1 minus tax rate ይሆናል ማለት ነው። So that's simply ለምሳሌ ቢፎር ታክሳችን 5% ከሆነና ታክስ ሬታችን 30% ከሆነ KDT ያችን is equal to 5% ሲባዛ 1 minus 30% ይሆናል ማለት ነው። So that's simply how to calculate the cost of debts. So let us calculate this example. Illustrate እናርግ. Example, currently Chamo Industrial Group is planning to sell 50-year bonds. So ብር 1000 par value bond that carries 12% annual coupon interest rate. So as a result of lower current interest rate, Chamo bond can be sold for 1010 birr. So the flotation cost is 30 per bond will be incurred in the process of issuing the bonds. The fair marginal tax rate is 40%. So እዚህ ጋር የምንሰራው ምንድነው? KD basically መጀመሪያ before tax እንሰራለን, then we'll adjust for after taxes basically. So ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር what is the interest እዚህ ጋር ኩፖን ሬታችን 12% ነው። So 12% of 1000 is simply ስንት ይሆናል? 120 ይሆናል ቤዚካሊ 120 ፕላስ ፓር ቫልዩአችን 1000 ነው። 1000 ማይነስ what is the net proceed? so ቦንዱ የሚሸጠው ስንት ብር ነው? 110 ብር። አንዱን ቦንድ ለመሸጥ ስንት ፍሎቴሽን ኮስት አለ? 30 ብር። ስለዚህ ኔት ፕሮሲዳችን 980 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። then divide for number of years which is 50. so እያለን እንቀጥላለን። እዚህ ጋር ኢላስትሬሽኑን ማየት እንችላለን። here this one አሁን ሲሰራ የነበረው ይሄንን ነው basically. finally before tax ይሄንን እናገኛለን። after tax will be adjusted in this way. so tax ሬቱን በመጠቀም we will adjust for after taxes basically. so እዚህ ጋር አሁን 120ችን ከየት ይመጣል? 120 እዚህ ጋር 12% annual coupon rate አለ። በፓር ቫልዩ ነው የምናባዛው። par values plus 1000 is par value basically ቦንዱ ላይ የተጻፈው amount 980 ከየት ይመጣል? ኔት ፕሮሲድ ነው። ቦንዱ የሚሸጠው 1100 ብር ነው። so ፍሎቴሽን ኮስቱ 30 ብር ነው። ስለዚህ ኔት ፕሮሲድ ከቦንዱ የሚገኘው ገንዘብ ስንት ይሆናል? 980 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። so that is the point. divide for 50 which is life of the bonds, then divide for 1000 plus 980 which is simply par value plus net proceed divide for 2 which is average-ን የምንሰራ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። so in that way we can get before tax cost of debt and after tax cost of debts. so basically this is all about today. cost of debታችን ላይ በዚህ መልኩ ምንሰራ ይሆናል። next time we will calculate other cost of capitals, and in general we will discuss the weighted average cost of capital. so thank you very much. don't forget to subscribe. so subscribe አድርጋችሁ በጣም ለኤግዚት ኤግዛም የሚጠቅማችሁን ቱቶሪያል እና ጥያቄዎችን ማግኘት ትችላላችሁ። thank you very much. have a nice time.